Welcome to the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I am Nick Roloff. This morning's video comes right after round one of the NBA draft, where we saw a lot of trades throughout the league. We also saw Miami make a pick. They stayed at the 20th overall slot and took Illinois point guard Kasparas Jakucionis. And if you saw my reaction on my short, on social media, and on the entire breakdown of the pick Miami made late last night, you would be in the know about how much I love this pick. Like, this is a potential game changer long-term for Miami. I love his playmaking. Top 3 playmaker in the draft without a question. It's probably either him, Demand, and Nolan Traore as the top 3 playmakers. Really good step-back jump shooter, physical, big guard who rebounds. Like, I don't want to spend too much talking about Jakucionis because I'll have all offseason to do that, and we already broke it down fully in depth yesterday. But I did want to briefly mention that Miami did make that pick in case you were living under a rock and you did not know that. But the reason I'm making this video this morning before the second round of the NBA draft is because all of the rumors surrounding the Miami Heat on the trade market right now. We thought they could end up trading this pick in a deal with the Kings or something like that. That evidently didn't happen, and it was reported that there is no kind of motion right now towards Miami trading Jakucionis at this time, and hopefully that remains that way. I do not want to give him up. But one of the biggest topics around Miami, Andrew Wiggins' future, because Anthony Irwin, who covers the Lakers pretty well, and I would consider a respectable beat reporter for the Lakers, reported yesterday before the draft that the Lakers and Heat have continued trade talks surrounding Andrew Wiggins. And nothing is imminent, but there are advanced negotiations, and there has been plenty of conversation between Miami and Los Angeles. And I'm not surprised that it kind of maybe took a halt in terms of when the draft got underway, because both teams were like, hey, we don't need to make anything happen tonight because the Lakers don't have a pick or anything like that in the first round of the draft. So it's like, we don't need to get this done by a certain time. We could table the conversation and then reconvene tomorrow potentially. Irwin, in an article more about what the Heat might be wanting for Andrew Wiggins in return from the Lakers. Irwin said that Miami would push for Dalton Connect in the trade, as the Lakers may not want to trade their 2031 or 32 first-round pick before they address their vacant center position. Miami might also look to move Kyle Anderson in the 2 years, $18.8 million left on his contract. If the Lakers push to keep Hachimura out of the trade, which is likely someone who's going to be in it, by the way, they would almost certainly have to include some first-round draft capital, as well as either the number 55 pick in this year's draft or a future pick swap. Those sources do indicate Miami likes Hachimura's shooting ability and size. And I gotta be honest, like, if you are subscribed to the channel, we have talked about this before. Jovan Buha, who covers the Los Angeles Lakers, talked about how the Andrew Wiggins type of prototype is a perfect player for the Lakers, checks out a lot of their boxes this offseason as a trade target. And we made a video about 2 or 3 weeks ago about a potential Wiggins trade to the Lakers. And I had in that mock trade, my exact mock trade, by the way, was Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, and the 55th overall pick for Andrew Wiggins. And I thought there could be more added to that for the Heat to get rid of Wiggins, and I think that was a fair deal. Listen, Hachimura's got 1 year, $17.5 million left on his deal. Gabe Vincent's got 1 year, $11 million. So what you would be doing in Miami is, if you made that deal, is that you'd be getting $28 million in expiring contracts in Hachimura and Vincent, instead of having Wiggins, who is under contract this year for $28 million, and then as a player option for next year. So you would be able to let $28 million come off the books to give you a lot more flexibility for the 2026 offseason. And if you could get any draft capital alongside that, whether it's a pick swap from LA, second-round capital, that's something that I am very much inclined to do, especially because I do think Hachimura and Vincent would actually be able to make an impact on this Heat team if they kept them. Like, I wouldn't start Hachimura because he's more of a 4, and if you even acquire him, I would start Jovic over him at the 3 if you want to go big. But he could be a great player off the bench to help you contribute now. He can shoot at his size. He can defend. He's very versatile. And Vincent, we already know about his potential fit in Miami because he was with the Heat before he signed that 3-year deal with the Lakers. So I'm very much intrigued by this possibility, if we're going to be honest. There's also been buzz out there. You mentioned it from Anthony Irwin, that the Heat could push to try to acquire Dalton Connect in a deal instead of first-round pick. And there's a way where Miami could come away like bandits in this, and I am all in on it. Now, there's 2 ways to look at it. You make a deal like this, you could keep Dalton Connect and trade Duncan Robinson later in the offseason before his money guarantees for $19.8 million, save the $10 million by waiving him or just trading him, and then have Connect be your young shooter off the bench on a rookie contract. Connect was the player that I really liked in last year's draft, had him as a top 10 player in that draft class, and when the Heat were on the board at 15, Connect was there, Jared McCain was there, Khalil Ware was there, and I pounded my fist on the table for the Heat to take Dalton Connect because I believe he is that good of a shooter and that good of a scorer. Now, he had an up-and-down rookie season in LA where he didn't get a lot of playing time, got off to an extremely hot start early, but then kind of tailed off. Still put up relatively decent numbers for a rookie that didn't get a ton of consistent playing time behind LeBron James, Hachimura, and others. So I would be fine keeping him as a player off the bench. But what you could also do is maybe making this a 3-team deal and flip Dalton Connect to the Charlotte Hornets. Because if you just flash back towards the trade deadline, the Hornets traded Mark Williams to the Lakers for draft capital and Dalton Connect. And then the trade obviously did not go through. Mark Williams is now a Phoenix Sun, but Connect remains a Laker. I know the Hornets took Liam McNeely and Con Kneppel yesterday in the first round of the draft, two shooters that fit LaMelo and Brandon Miller. But could they spin the tires on potentially Dalton Connect? I find it very much more unlikely now since they drafted Con Kneppel and McNeely in the first round. But you can always hit them up and say, hey, what are your thoughts on Connect? Would you still want to add him to your roster for a first-round pick? Oh, more specifically, the Heat's 2027 first-round pick that was sent in the Terry Rozier trade. Because if you got that back in a 3-team deal and Connect went to Charlotte, well, then the Heat having that 2027 pick back would unlock every single pick Miami has. They would now have their 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32 first-round picks, which means they could trade every pick they could possibly do, whether it's 4 unprotected and 3 pick swaps, whatever way you want to go about it. They'd be able to do that. You have just so much more flexibility with your draft capital. It's a really good idea if you're asking me, and if it's on the table, it's going to be hard for me to not want to do that. Predict it, though. Will the Heat trade Andrew Wiggins? I tweeted out yesterday that it becomes more and more likely at this point that Andrew Wiggins will not be on the roster for the Heat in 2025. Rumors about them just shopping him straight up. Obviously, then you got this Lakers talk, and now I'm fascinated to see what ultimately happens with Wiggins. Type Y if you think you want to trade him. Type N if you do not want to trade him. Let's want to segue this now. I do want to trade him. I do, but we're not going to talk about Andrew Wiggins anymore because this is a two-parter on today's show. I want to talk about Jakucionis. I want to talk about the latest around Andrew Wiggins and potentially trading him. But I am also very much interested in potentially acquiring a second-round pick at this draft. I really, really am. The board fell very interesting in round 1. There was a lot of players that went in the first round that I did not anticipate going in round 1. And with the Heat taking Jakucionis at 20, they passed up on some other players I liked. They passed up on Nick Clifford. They passed up on Rasheer Fleming, Adou Thiero. Well, some of those guys are still there. I am stunned that Rasheer Fleming is still available as we enter round 2. Same thing with Adou Thiero. And a lot of people, including myself, we do need a backup big. We don't have that. Kalkbrenner and Maxime Raynaud are still there. Now, I don't know how things will ultimately fall, but if you tell me over the next 24 hours or during this early morning and afternoon before we get to the second round tipping off and kicking off tonight, the Heat traded Duncan Robinson, the Heat traded Andrew Wiggins, the Heat traded Terry Rozier, maybe they even traded Jaime Jaquez Jr. Like, I would contemplate doing that if it meant getting a pick early in the second round. Another player that you could maybe trade, Haywood Highsmith. I know it would be tough, but if you could swing a Highsmith to the Timberwolves, who need probably 3-and-D wings with their cap situation, they hold the 31st pick. Boston holds 32. If you're able to get up into the early parts of the second round and land one of these guys, like, I'm not kidding. You see my top 7 on the best available. The Heat trade up into the second round and draft any of those 7. I tweeted out, I would not slander Pat Riley, I think, for years. I mean that. Like, getting Jakucionis in one of these top 7 in the draft here would be absolutely phenomenal. They're on rookie contracts, able to contribute right away. I'm so high on some of these players, man. I want them. Do I think Miami does it? Probably not, because they are not a team that likes to trade up in the draft whatsoever. I think the last time they traded up in the draft, if I am not mistaken, this is going to be some trivia, and if I'm wrong, flame me in the comment section. The last time they traded up in the draft was in the 2019 second round. After they took Tyler Hero, they traded up to get KZ Akpala from the Stanford Cardinals. And we all know how that turned out. So let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I think I am right. Either way, I do want the Heat to explore this possibility and just commit to the youth build. I know there's a lot of rumors about Kuminga. We'll get to that. Don't you worry throughout the next couple of videos. But with how intrigued I am with some of these prospects still available, I would be absolutely all in on trading up to get one of them. Will they do it? I kind of lean against. But I also didn't think they would be able to land Jakucionis by sticking at 20. I tweeted out that if they were smart, they should trade up to 15 or 16 and take them. But they did not. Not going to complain. Anyway, that'll do it for today's show. Appreciate everybody hanging out here. If news happens, we will break it down. If Wiggins gets traded, Duncan gets traded, Rasheer gets traded, we'll go live on the channel before the draft and break it all down. If not, we're going to continue to bring you daily content and be live for the second round, hanging out anyway, just breaking down all the picks on day 2 of the draft. So make sure you subscribe and join us for that. See you on the next video.